The market opens in 4 minutes. You've been here since 5:47 a.m. 3 monitors, 1 lukewarm coffee, and a stack of pitch decks that nobody's going to touch. You are 23 years old. You have $94,000 in debt. Your salary felt huge until you watched your MD build what he built today. So you run the numbers. You format the models. You don't complain. You learn to read a 10K in 40 minutes. That's what surviving at this level actually looks like. And then one morning, you find it. A wrong number. Buried deep inside your senior associate's model. An error worth $2 million. You stare at it for a while. You quietly fix it in your own file. You say nothing to anyone, because the system doesn't reward honesty. It rewards knowing when to stay quiet. Your days are 14 hours, sometimes 18. You stop counting after month 1. You learn which managing directors to stand near and which ones to avoid like a bad trade. You don't have power yet, but you know exactly where it lives. You process a $430 million deal from a spreadsheet on the 31st floor. You never meet the client, you never see the boardroom, but your numbers are sitting in that room. Your work is in that deck. And somewhere in that gap, between your desk and that boardroom, you start to understand how this whole thing is shaped. You are the foundation, the part nobody sees, the part nobody thinks. The floor is empty. It's late. You look out at the city. And for the first time, you're not even thinking about the salary anymore. 2 years later, you're in the room, not the main room, the side room where associates sit and wait. But you're there. And that's the shift. You're structuring now. Junior pieces, sure, but real structure. You draft the terms on a $180 million mezzanine financing. You sit across from a CFO for the first time. You explain a covenant breach scenario without blinking, because you've run that scenario 40 times in the past week alone. That's your currency at this level. Preparation. Not personality. Preparation. The deal. A leveraged buyout of a regional logistics company. It will almost certainly mean operational cuts. You don't model the human cost. Nobody asks you to. You model EBITDA margins and debt service coverage. You present it cleanly. The deal moves forward. You collect your bonus. You don't think about Ohio. You rationalize it the way everyone does. You just ran the numbers. The second rule, being close to capital means being close to power. And being close to power means being close to decisions you'd rather not have made. You start building your own network. A VP who pulls you into deals. An associate who keeps you informed. You look out for each other. Not out of friendship, but because you're useful to each other. Welcome to the first layer of the machine inside the machine. You're managing people now. Their output, their mistakes, their hours. A team of 4 analysts. 2 associates. You stop counting your own hours. You think in deal flow. Not hours, not tasks. Deal flow. You close your first transaction on your own. A $620 million acquisition financing European infrastructure, Southeast Asia. Your MD's name is on the cover sheet. You're on page 6. But in the room, the client is talking to you, asking you questions, looking at you when the numbers get complicated. That's the shift at VP level. You're not being supported anymore, you're the one doing the supporting. You start to see how ethics actually work in high finance. The target company's pension obligations get restructured after closing. The acquiring fund needs a 22% IRR. The pension restructuring is what makes that possible. You know what that means for the retirees. You don't say it out loud. Nobody says it in the meeting. The deal closes in 11 weeks. Your year-end cut is $480,000. You wire $40,000 to your parents. You buy a 2-bedroom in a city where a 2-bedroom means you've made it. You tell yourself the pension situation was already going under. You might even be right. The third rule, and this one hits different at the VP level. You stop asking whether the deal is good. You ask whether the deal can get done. At this level, that's the only question left. You're sourcing now, not just executing. You're finding deals yourself. Clients call you directly, not your MD, you. Private equity shops send deal flow your way. 3 closings in 4 years, you've never missed a deadline. Never let anything leak. That track record is worth more than being the smartest person in the room. You manage a $1.2 billion book of advisory mandates. You sit on pitches as the senior banker now. Your associate runs the model. Your VP handles due diligence. You sell the vision, you sell confidence. That is the actual product. You start to understand leverage in its purest form. Not financial leverage, but informational leverage. The knowing. You know which companies are about to run a strategic review before it's announced? You know which sovereign fund is quietly building a position before any public disclosure? You don't trade on it. That's not what this level is about. But you know. And the knowing makes you sharper, faster, more decisive. Then you lose one. Not because of the numbers. Because of a relationship you didn't have. A competing MD went to the same private club as the chairman. That's why you lost a $2.8 billion mandate. A club membership. You don't lose your composure. You don't make excuses. You join 2 clubs within the month. Because at the director level, the deal is never just about the numbers. The calls come earlier now, sometimes before markets open, sometimes from numbers you don't recognize. You manage 12 client relationships. Each one is worth between $3 million and $40 million in annual fee revenue. You are no longer working for the bank. You are the bank's relationship with these clients. That's a subtle distinction, but it's a massive one. You sit on an internal credit committee. $900 million in revolving credit, deteriorating balance sheet. You vote yes, not because the credit looks clean, because losing the relationship would cost 3 times the exposure. It's a political decision dressed up as a financial one. Every major decision at this level is. You travel constantly. Singapore, Zurich, Abu Dhabi, Dubai. You have dinners with ministers, not politicians, ministers. These aren't business dinners. They're relationship maintenance. The relationship is the business. Capital doesn't just follow returns. It follows relationships, political alignment, regulatory familiarity, and trust between the right people. The best trade in the world doesn't happen without that trust. Your identity has quietly reshaped itself around the machine. You don't notice. Nobody does. Not at first. There are 14 partners in the division. You are one of them now. Your name is on the door. Not literally, but in every way that actually matters. You have carried interest in the fund, skin in every major deal the firm runs. When the fund performs, you perform. When it doesn't, neither do you. This changes everything about how you think. You stop chasing the annual bonus. You start optimizing for the 5-year fund cycle. You stop thinking in quarters, you start thinking in decades. You lead a $4.3 billion acquisition of a European energy infrastructure company. 3 months of negotiation, 4 regulatory jurisdictions, 2 competing bids. You run the consortium, your fund, a Middle Eastern sovereign co-investor, a Canadian pension. The closing dinner is in London. The handshake happens in a room that doesn't show up on any floor plan. You structure the offshore holding through a Luxembourg vehicle feeding into a Cayman feeder fund. The tax efficiency is substantial. The structure is completely legal. 2 attorneys, Dublin and Singapore, have checked it from every angle. You sign without hesitation. The deal adds 180 basis points to the fund's net IRR. Your carried interest on this single transaction will compound to over $40 million. You stop going to most social events, not because you're too busy, but because the conversations don't go anywhere useful anymore. Your social world has narrowed down to people who control capital. Funny how that happens. 2 calls today. One from a sovereign wealth fund in the Gulf. $7 billion looking for somewhere to go. They want your fund to anchor the deal flow. You're one of 3 firms getting that mandate. The second call is from a finance ministry. Not a banker, the minister himself. You take both calls from the same room. 44th floor. Corner office. No trading screens, no Bloomberg terminal. Just glass, silence, and a phone that connects you to people who move entire asset classes. You are not in the market anymore. The market is in you. Your positioning, your sentiment, your deployment decisions. They move price discovery. When you buy, people watch. When you pull back, analysts write about it for weeks. You sit on 3 corporate boards. You advise a multilateral development bank's infrastructure program. You brief the government twice a year on capital market conditions. You don't lobby, you advise. The distinction is real. The influence is the same. The cost of this level is something nobody prepares you for. The people you genuinely trust number fewer than 10. Beyond that circle, nothing. You have more access than anyone in your life can understand, and almost no one you can actually talk to about it. You are too embedded to be removed. The system would cost more to dismantle than to keep. That is not power. That is something quieter, colder, and more permanent than power. A boardroom in Geneva. 4 people. No agenda on the table. No presentation on the screen. You speak for about 6 minutes. The room listens to every word. Then you stop, and the room moves. Somewhere in a glass tower in a city that never stops moving, a 23-year-old opens a terminal for the very first time. His badge says analyst, first year. The badge has always said that. It always will. He thinks this is about salary. He thinks the system rewards what you put in. He has no idea yet what the system actually rewards. But he will find out. The terminal blinks, the market opens, and the machine takes another step forward.